You're listening to Everybody Pulls the Tarp, the go-to podcast for high performers. I'm Andrew Moses. Each week, you'll hear my thought-provoking conversations with Olympians, pro athletes, CEOs, elite coaches, best-selling authors, and other high performers to uncover their secrets to success. Get ready to be inspired each week when we talk about leadership, teamwork, work ethic, and more. Are you ready? Let's go. Monica Aksamit, welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp. How are you doing, Monica?
I'm great. How are you?
I am doing great, and I'm always especially excited with any guest on Everybody Pulls the Tarp. But when the guest is a Penn State alumni, that's always extra special for me because you know I bleed Penn State blue and white. So welcome to Everybody Pulls the Tarp.
Thank you for having me. I mean, I'm always have pleasure to talk to any Penn Stater forever and always.
So, Monica, we'll get into your time at Penn State, but you are an Olympic fencer. You're training for the Olympics as we speak, a bronze medal at the Rio Games, two-time NCAA national champion with the Penn State fencing team. You have been a high performer your entire life, it seems. Where I want to start is really right now. So you're training for the Olympics, but I'm curious, how has the pandemic and everything going on impacted your training for the upcoming Olympic Games?
Man, it was very rough in the beginning, obviously, because we came off. I was actually stuck overseas because of the pandemic. And we went from training 5-6 days a week to sitting on our couch, which is insane for me because I haven't done that since like the age of 9. I've always been active. So we could barely couldn't do anything. So that was rough. I knew from the beginning I was pretty sure that the Olympics wouldn't be happening that time around. That at least helped me. I know other people were stressed out and still trying to train and trying to do anything to figure it all out. But so yeah. And getting back into training was rough because we have family in Poland. So my grandma was actually sick. So my mom was flying back and forth. So I was helping out around the house. So I couldn't even start training when things did open up. But when I did start fully training, it was a circus because I started fully training and then my coach got COVID and then two or three of my teammates got COVID. So we had a whole scare of if you test positive, you're most likely not going to be able to compete at the World Cup that we had. And so that was a nightmare and a half. I couldn't even train. So we had like 5.5 week notice about our World Cup. I was able to train for 2.5 of those weeks because of all the COVID scares. And then I came back to the fencing club after being negative. And we had to test negative to be allowed back in. Everybody tested negative. That we went to a practice. The following day, I was told a kid from that class tested positive, and I'm, again, not allowed to train. So it was brutal. It's been brutal.
So talked about the training there. It sounds like it's been really challenging. And I know you share your story quite a bit on Instagram. And how do you deal with the highs and lows of that and stay focused on the goal?
Honestly, it used to be a lot easier than nowadays. Like just all of the unknowns and everything changing constantly. I think that's been the hardest part. But I've been talking to my sports psychologist as much as I can. I've kind of gone into approach of letting things just roll off. I just laugh about them and just say it is what it is. Like I have little to no control over situations. And there's obviously it doesn't always work, right? But I think it's helped me get through some of the smaller details of just like, it is what it is. Like I have no control. Anything can happen these days. Just gotta, just tackle it and go on.
Elite performers, it seems, in almost every industry, sport, business, whatever it is, are creatures of habit in many ways. Yep. And I would imagine as your habits have been changed, your routines have been changed, you've needed to find new ways to adapt, like everybody.
Yeah. You have no other choice because, again, things just keep happening. And it's those challenges that really determine who we are as people, right? If you give up, I don't know. I've always been a fighter and I never give up in anything. So I think that's why I've come this far.
You do never give up. One of the things I know you've been very vocal about, and I'm not sure people, everybody understands, how little most Olympians are paid and how expensive it is to put yourself through the training, and the rigor and everything that goes along with competing and trying to compete in the Olympics. Fencing in particular is a sport which is very expensive. As I understand it, the equipment is very costly. The suit is very costly. You have been very vocal about this. How do you deal with that whole experience as part of your process?
So I fundraised money for the Rio Olympics as well as the Tokyo Olympics. Thankfully, I do have an equipment sponsor, which helps tremendously nowadays. So I fundraised money for Rio, and I really hoped I wouldn't have to do the same thing for Tokyo after medaling. But I was literally in the same position of sponsorships. Sponsors really only truly care about you, most of them, Olympic year. Otherwise, that's it. Like nobody really cares. So as an Olympian, obviously, it's not like I train one single year. I have to train 4 years at the least. Obviously, you train prior to that, but you commit to Olympics 4 years before. So I do have an equipment sponsor, which helps tremendously. That is one of the more costly expenses. But I mean, there's also travel. Like we have 8 World Cups in a year. We also have 4 national tournaments, and all of these things cost money, as well as training camps. So yeah, I mean, I've just built an amazing community online. So that helps, obviously. So I fundraised for Tokyo. That was a lot easier. That story actually blew up because, as you said, like not most people don't even know that this is the situation. I mean, I get paid $300 a month from the U.S. Olympic Committee, which, I mean, what does $300 cover? Like anywhere in the country, let alone in New York. Half of that money goes towards the subway for me to get to and from practice.
You said $300.
$300.
So take me through that process. So you said you essentially crowdfunded to raise money to get yourself through the Rio Games and have done the same for the Tokyo Games. What is that process like? How do you do that?
So for Rio, it was a little bit different. I went through this company. I don't think they exist because I tried to check for them, but it was called Pursue It. And it was just like a platform for like athletes to be able to fundraise money. And they kind of helped a lot because they took a bigger chunk of it, but ultimately I don't think I would have raised that money, but because they would reach out to newspapers and all that stuff to like help you fundraise that money. So the second time around, I just did it on my own. I did it through GoFundMe, and my story just blew up. The New York Post found it, and then they did a whole feature, and then it was on like Fox, CNBC did a thing, like so many different newspapers did that. So yeah.
So how did you know that this was the path you needed to go? Had other Olympians told you, hey, you're going to have to raise your own money, you're going to have to fund this yourself? How did you come to the realization that you're going to need to take this fundraising on as an additional responsibility to get yourself to the games?
No one told me. It's not like, I mean, nobody looks out for you in this situation. I mean, okay, my coach does, like my personal circle, but otherwise, I mean, it's a free for all. Everybody wants to make it. So no one's out here really giving you advice, especially, like I said, we're in an individual sport. So we're all competition for each other. It was kind of, I just bled myself dry. It was the final year of Tokyo, and I was too proud to ask for money prior, but I literally had $150 left in my bank account. And it was like a New York Fashion Week event for athletes, Laureate Sport for Good. And we had to check into the hotel, and they took a deposit, and I think it was like $100 or like $120. And they're like, oh, like we need to take the security deposit. And I gave them my credit card, and I was like, okay, well now I'm left with $30 in my bank account. Like I'm not even going to be like, I can't even figure out food for the most part for like these next 2 days. So I had my friend Venmo me money. And that's when I was like, well, listen, like there's no way I can actually do this. There's literally no way that I'm going to be able to travel this next season if I don't ask for money. So it's either I'm deciding to quit or I'm going to swallow my pride and ask for help.
What do you think resonated with people in particular the most to compel them to support your cause? Like, do you think there was one or two things about your story that resonated with people?
I don't know if it was like my personal story as much as it was both times around. People would leave like comments here and there, which was really nice. It was either people that had to give up their dreams due to financial situations or injuries, or people being like, I never went after my dreams and you have this opportunity. Go for it for me.
It's so cool to see, right? Because on this show all the time, I talk about this pull the tarp mindset, right? The fact that great teams, great organizations are powered by individuals who contribute in unexpected ways. And in your instance, you needed people around you to pull the tarp to help you, pull the tarp for the country and represent the country, so proudly at the Olympic Games. It's always cool to see when people rally around a cause, whether it's an organization or an individual. I want to actually go back a little further. So fencing. So I can't say that, like in the town I grew up in, I would have figured out how to get involved in fencing. How did you find fencing?
It wasn't me that found it. My mom actually found it for me, but it's always interesting because it is a smaller sport. It's not like, oh, I was in high school and saw somebody doing it. Everybody has different stories, which is really cool. For me, it was my first fencing coach was a client at the bank that my mom worked at. And he just talked about fencing all the time. I used to also go to Polish school. So he's like, well, like it's just at the same building. Like she can literally walk from Polish school classes over to fencing, bring her in. It's a great scholarship opportunity. And my mom, as a immigrant and a single mother, she was like, this is amazing. If my daughter can get a scholarship to an amazing university, like this is literally everything what I would have wanted for her. Maybe this is the route. And she brought me in. I mean, I'm 6 feet right now, but I was always taller than most of the other kids. So that obviously helped. But I was 8 or 9 and they gave me a sword. They said, hit these kids. And I did. Everybody applauded me and it was great. I mean, what kid at that age doesn't want to be hitting other children?
That's right. I mean, we try and teach the kids not to hit each other, but now you have a chance where it actually gets you round of applause. So was it just you excelled right from there? I mean, it was kind of like success right out of the gate?
Yeah, my first national tournament, I finished in 6th, and then my second one, I was 3rd. Then there was a lull for a really long time, and then I started having results and making national teams.
When does it really start to consume a large majority of your life and your waking hours, right? I mean, I talk to Olympians all the time, and figure skaters, gymnasts, soccer players, they talk about from a very early age, it's such a large percentage of their waking hours that they're devoting to the sport. What about for you?
Definitely in high school. I don't really remember middle school as much, but I mean, you have to train. Back then, I'm pretty sure we had practice like Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the least. But I would say freshman year of high school for sure. Again, like I don't really remember as much before. Before, all I know is like every weekend, pretty much I had a competition. So definitely that was what kept me the busiest. But like in high school, I remember classes ended 2:13. I would walk home because I lived right by there. I would eat lunch really quickly and then get on the train. I think it was like the 3:24 train, 3:28 train, go to practice. On the train, I'd be doing homework, studying, all that stuff. Practice. I was always supposed to take the 9:30 train. They don't really change that much. That's why I can remember. I would always get in trouble if I took the 10 o'clock train, but like sometimes practice was that good and like the people I really wanted to fence were still there. So I would just be like, oh, mom, the train left early, so I missed it. Because that would put me at home at like 11-ish, obviously pretty late because I had to start classes at 7:25. And again, I'd be doing homework on the train. If I didn't finish, I would do homework when I got home.
Was there a moment when you said, I could be one of the best in the world at this? Or
so I didn't say there's a chance I could be. At the age of 14, I decided I also wanted to become Olympian. That's kind of how that went. There was no like, is this possible? It was like, no, I also want to be doing that. I also want to be there. This is my goal.
And were you just watching the Olympics? When did you were watching and said, I could do that?
Yeah, I watched, maybe not that I could do that. This is what I want to be doing. I don't think I was cocky to say I'm going to be doing this, but I actually watched my Rio teammate, Mariel Zagunis, win the very first gold medal for a women's saber in the United States. So that's when I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like, I also want to be fencing at the Olympics.
So at that point, does anything change? Do you alter your training, add more training when you say, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's when I guess, I don't know if you're at 14, you're a freshman in high school, something like that. So yeah, that is when I started doing more. We added in, I was already doing a little bit more, but at that point it was like, I was doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And I think around that time when I said that all of that, I changed coaches because he believed in me. So kind of everything just started. I guess I just like put more effort mentally and physically and everything into it. And then I changed coaches my coach is one of the best coaches in the world.
Yuri Gelman, right?
Without him.
Yuri Gelman?
Yeah, Yuri Gelman, exactly. And yeah, I started going to pretty much all the practices, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
And at some point, as you're getting older and you're moving through high school, do you feel like you're making sacrifices in other aspects of your life? What's that like?
But I was doing that from the beginning. For me, fencing was always a priority. I loved it. I think it's amazing. Like even to this day I think about whether or not I'm done after this Olympic run, but you never stop learning and you never stop growing. And it's always a challenge. Like it's never easy, which is, I always like a challenge. I always make things difficult for myself. And yeah, there was no questions about it of like my friends would have a birthday party and I was like, okay, well, I practice, sorry. So from an early age, like that was always my mom told me I had to have straight A's in school or I wasn't going to practice. And I'd be sobbing hysterically, throwing everything like under the bed, in boxes, in the closet, anything to get my room clean. I had to have straight A's to be able to. So I was always studying and making sure all my classes were perfect. So, I mean, fencing just consumed me and it was never really a question. I've lost friends along the way because of it, but that's fine. It definitely hurt when I was younger, but now I kind of just understand it of my circle is always going to support me and they're going to want me to grow. And I have amazing friends where like they would buy concert tickets to surprise me. I'm like, listen, I've practiced. They would sell the tickets and like drive over to come see me instead. So I think that's part of the factors that you have as if you want to be great, you're going to have to make sacrifices.
Let's go back to your mom there. You said some interesting things I want to follow up on. So your mom said, if you don't get straight A's, you don't go to practice. It sounds like she also made sure that you cleaned your room before you went to practice. Do you think that discipline that she created for you, did that carry over into your competitive sport world?
I mean, probably. It's hard to say, obviously, because you can't really go back to see like how different you'd be if it wasn't. But it definitely didn't hurt. I mean, she always really set the bar high for me. She wanted me to be the best at everything. She was always a realist, even from a young age. Like my parents went through a divorce when I was like 9, and they're like, it's not like she tried to hide it from me. And she just instilled these values of, I want you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can be. Not like she hated at school when always teachers were like, well, it's okay, you did your best. Mom's like, no, you're not number one. That's not the best. Like the best is number one. You can't be setting the bar of, oh, like I felt off. No, you work harder. So again, for sure, it definitely helped. It didn't hurt.
Was there something, at your mom's core that you think drove that mindset in her?
Yeah, kind of probably. So she moved to America for that American dream right before finishing college. She like had to write her thesis or something. I think she wanted a different life for herself than she has because she just made all these sacrifices. At the time, maybe she didn't think sacrifices, but then I was born, so things were a little bit different. So I think she, I feel like parents live through their children. So I definitely think she's doing that.
My grandparents on my father's side immigrated to the United States from Germany when the Nazis came to power to escape Nazi Germany. Both my grandmother and my grandfather passed away many years ago, but education was always so central in terms of priorities for him. And, a lot of that goes back to, in my opinion, the fact that his education was taken away from him. He left Germany as a child, came to America, and that's really where his schooling ended. He had to go find a way to build a business and create a new life for himself. It's always interesting to see how those experiences impact people and then how those experiences kind of transcend generations.
Yeah, for my grandparents, that was like the number one thing of a college education. So like my cousin who's a year older than me didn't finish school. He just started working and it's like one of their things that's always like, well, when are you going to finish school? And he has 2 kids, whatever. And he's like, I have a job, whatever. And they're like, okay, but when are you going to finish school?
The education is so critical. I remember, not only was it education, but now I'm thinking about some of the memories. My grandfather would always get frustrated if I left any food on my plate, right? Because he didn't necessarily always have an opportunity to have a lot of extra food on his plate when he was getting started in the United States. So I think it instilled in me this mindset that you never take anything for granted and you're fortunate for everything that you have. And for me, I tell people all the time, and I've said it before on the show, I'm not the smartest person in any room. I'm not the most talented person in any room. I'm certainly not the most athletic person in any room, but nobody's going to outwork me at whatever I'm putting my mind to. And I think that goes back to this mindset of making the most of every opportunity, which it sounds like your mom instilled in you.
Yep. Yeah. Comes from my entire family.
So Monica, we got to talk a little bit about Penn State and the experience at Penn State. So I went to Penn State from New Jersey. I was looking for a big school with a lot of spirit, a lot of energy. How did you find Penn State? Just out of curiosity.
So also from Jersey, but we had a training camp. I think I was like 10. And then later when I was 14, we had a competition. I don't know at what point this conversation happened. I remember it happening. So I feel like it was when I was 14, but I don't remember a camp at that point. I remember being competing at a competition at 14. Anyways, whatever camp this was at whatever time, all the kids were talking about where they want to go to school. And everyone's like, oh, and we're at Penn State. And people are like, oh, I want to go to Columbia. I want to go to Harvard. I want to go to Princeton. I was like, no, I want to go to Penn State. Like, I like it here. I like the coach here. The coach actually was really good friends with my first coach. So he would come down every once in a while to give us lessons. So like I got along well with him. I was like, no, like I really could see myself here. And then when came time around to being offered scholarships, Penn State, or I already knew that the Penn State coach was interested in me because again, like they were friends. So that was always the top contender. And then Ohio State reached out to me of like, what can we heard you were offered a scholarship from Penn State. Are you interested? Ohio State, what else can we offer you? And I was kind of like, I mean, if you can fly me home for vacations, considering you're so far away, but that's the only way that you can one up Penn State. So yeah, and then I remember that competition later down the road and it was cold. We didn't have enough, like I didn't bring a jacket or something. And I bought my very first Penn State sweatshirt, which I still have to this day. And yeah.
We all have that first Penn State t-shirt or sweatshirt, that's it's like a relic, no matter how old it gets. I remember for me, I was deciding between Penn State University and the University of Maryland. And my parents encouraged me to go back to Penn State one more time. We had seen both schools. We had actually put a small deposit down at Maryland and they said, let's go to Penn State one more time. We went to Penn State. It was a beautiful day. We sat outside and ate lunch at the deli there on right there downtown. And I told my parents to try and get that deposit back. And I was going to go to Penn State. And I'll never forget it. It was one of the greatest, obviously, personal experiences for me, but also professional experience. I think my experience at Penn State shaped me really. Obviously, I learned what I needed to launch my career, but I also think Penn State taught me how to work hard. Penn State taught me how to be coachable. Penn State taught me how to collaborate, work with others, serve community, things like that. And those are a lot of the experiences that I take away, aside from obviously the academic piece of it. What for you is, besides the 2 national championships, are your greatest memory at Penn State?
I mean, those definitely are the best memories, but no, definitely sense of community. It was the first time that I had the like team feeling because like I said, fencing is an individual sport. It felt like a family. Like it felt like these people had my back. I could rely on them no matter what. Even like the crazy situations that like all of us were in, it was like, okay, I have this person's back. Like I missed a flight and I had a huge project due the next day. And I got a flight to Harrisburg and my team captain at the time drove from Penn State. I remember getting back to campus at like 11:30. So I don't know whatever time she had to leave and she picked me up in Harrisburg. I mean, she didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But it was just that sense of like, this is my family. Like still to this day, when I see them, it's like, I don't know, seeing like mom and dad or like my brothers and sisters. So that's definitely huge. And I mean, in general, I feel immediately bonded to anybody that goes to Penn State. I mean, you see it. I remember being on a flight somewhere and I was wearing that Penn State hoodie and the flight attendant was from Penn State and he was bringing me extra snacks and juice, whatever. And my teammates were like, how are you getting that? I was like, because he said Penn State and I'm wearing a Penn State hoodie. So that's definitely one of my biggest takeaways.
It sure is a community. You've built an amazing community around you, Monica, with the fundraising that you're doing to propel yourself to the Olympic Games and cover your training and travel. Because of the fact that so many people have supported you financially, do you feel like this greater sense of responsibility to continue on your mission to be your best, compete at the highest level? Does that add to the weight of responsibility maybe that you feel?
For sure. I mean, I because I dealt with it a second time, it was a lot easier the second time around. But the first time around, it definitely did feel like pressure of like, these people believed in me. I have to do this. Like, I have to do well. Like, what if I fail? But then there were message of like, make it or not. Like, I want you to have an opportunity to go for your dreams. So that's kind of what I always reminded myself of. Like, these people are going to be proud of me. They're already proud of me for going for this and knowing that it's difficult. Sure, I'm going to let people down, but that's always a factor, right? I mean, we always worry about letting our parents down. But I was like, I'm just going to, instead of me fighting for myself, like I'm going to fight for these people. I'm going to add a little extra something. Like I have all these strangers believe in me. Like there has to be something in me that makes them want to believe in me. So like I can do it. I'm going to have to do it. That's it.
We're all rooting for you, Monica. Where can people follow along with your story?
My first and last name is my username for every single social media platform. I make it nice and easy, even though my last name might not be easy to some people, but I want to say it is the easiest Polish last name I've ever seen.
Well, Monica, we'll make sure everybody gets the information and we'll share your story with as many people as we possibly can. We're all rooting for you. continue the great work and keep pulling the tarp. Thanks for spending some time with me today, Monica.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me this week. Be sure to subscribe in your favorite podcast app so you can catch all of our upcoming episodes. And if you are like me and want a world full of tarp pullers, then leave a review to help others find us. You can also follow me on Instagram at AndrewMoses123 and sign up for my monthly email newsletter at everybodypullsthetarp.com/newsletter. I'll share tips and insights to help you achieve maximum success and happiness. Today is a great day to pull the tarp. I am rooting for you. See you next time.